Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to what is my first impression of the PS4 Pro. I got the chance to test it at a friend's place, and I want to give you my few opinions that I got about it so far. What you're seeing right now is the Doom demo, as can be found for PS Plus users on the PlayStation Store. And I play that because that was one of the games I tried on the PS4 Pro, and I was very impressed by how it ran and how it looks. But this much be told, this way that it runs there, it also runs on the normal PS4, which you see here, which is my own that I recorded after I got back from the friend and tried it on my own. So, what do you get with the PS4 Pro? You get a console that has about twice as much graphic power as the normal PS4, but there are a few things attached to that I will come later on. First impressions are very good on the whole machine. The price is very good in my opinion, and the fan speed and the temperatures, from what I've seen and what I read so far, don't seem to be out of order or too loud, as it doesn't really sound that well. But the normal PS4 is not louder. The Slim might be a little bit quieter, but I haven't got a chance to try that yet. But basically here to talk about the performance anyway. If you want to know more about power consumption, temperature, and the noise, there will be other videos around on YouTube. Mine focuses mainly on what you get for the Pro compared to what you get when you buy a Slim or a normal version, for that matter, because what's not on the package of the PS4 Pro is that if a game doesn't support the Pro, you will just get the normal power or the normal performance that you will get from the normal PlayStation 4. This goes that far that even games that have slowdowns on the normal PS4 will actually have the same slowdowns on the PS4 Pro, since the hardware is just halfway switched off, and therefore you just run about the same hardware level that you do with the normal PS4. Which means only games that got patched will actually get better. Patches are encouraged by Sony as far as I know, but not every game will have them. For example, I don't think Doom has a PS4 patch yet, and if so, the demo didn't really show it, or there was no difference visible. The PS4 Pro is sold as a 4K console, or at least advertised or announced back then. But the hardware is not sufficient to run 4K native resolution. So there are tricks that will come in effect when you have a 4K TV and you will have a game that is patched. Mostly it's upscaling, very clever upscaling actually. Works pretty good from what I've heard so far. And what you get out of that when you have a normal full HD TV, you will get a higher resolution game that will be downscaled for full HD, which will give you natural super sampling, anti-aliasing, and therefore look smoother than it does on the normal console. On the other hand, if you compare the 4K upscaler to a 4K game on a PC, you will end up with less image quality, but at least it will run. Sony encourages that the performance of games that are patched for the Pro is not allowed to be worse than on the normal PlayStation. So if you get higher image quality, the developers are not allowed to sacrifice performance for that matter. So a game that runs in 1080p with 30 frames on the normal console will run at 30 frames minimum on the Pro console. Same goes for if it runs on 60 frames on the normal, it will run on 60 frames on the Pro. That is, if they don't add additional modes like a 4K mode, that is in return then allowed to run in lower frame rates. So much for the patched games. So far I've seen Uncharted, which offered a HDR mode. That is, aside from the higher resolution, the next big selling point of the console. HDR, if you've never heard before, it's high dynamic range, basically a extended mode for showing colors. It also allows as the name suggests, wider range of colors to be used. The TVs can show brighter brightness and way more contrast in dark areas, meaning if you look at the sunset, the sun might blind you even more. If you are in a dark wood, you can actually make out way more gradients than you could before. And for all that graphics power, the only downside is you still need a patch, which brings me to what you probably saw in the thumbnail. What's he going on about with the SLI thing? Because there's another system that has this kind of problem. If you are a PC gamer and you always wondered, why should I put a second graphics card in my system? Leave DirectX 12 out of the equation for now because that works different, but on normal SLI systems where you have two graphics cards and you want to use the full power of your two graphic cards, you so far still need a patch for every single game. Nvidia and AMD are working hard to get those patches out in time, but there are games that take a while, and if you want to have your full power used on day one, on a PC, on a SLI setup, you will have to wait for the patch if it's not out yet, and that can, in some cases, take a while. Until then, you will be bound to a single graphics card. Of course, this might be enough, but you will just waste all the processing power, and that's so far what happens with unpatched games on the PS4 Pro console as well. And it's a little bit of a shame from my point of view, because you could have given the normal games just a little bit more CPU power to get those frame drops out of the way that occur every now and then. Of course, there are other things attached to that, so the game developers might not have taken a higher CPU speed in or a higher clock speed in account, and that might lead to errors, and that's why they basically don't do it. But be it as it be, when you end up with a better console and you have the same crappy performance on a normal game, then that is just a waste. At least Sony is probably doing a good job telling developers, hey, you want to get a Pro patch out, do it as fast as you can. The console is out on the market now. People want to play your game in a really good quality. So far you can play The Last of Us, for example. Uncharted 4 has a patch out there. The Last of Us even works in a native 4K mode running at 30 frames per second. It has some drops here and there as far as I know, but that must look really impressive. And if you're just going to buy the console for the HDR mode, think twice about that, because this you got with a patch on every PS4 console that's out. So even the first model gets the HDR patch delivered, and the Slim, of course, has that included as well. Yes, if you have a 4K TV, I would strongly recommend buying the PS4 Pro. If you don't own one yet, it will upscale normal games up to 4K as well, but if the game runs in 900p before, an upscaling to 4K will not give you that much to look at, sadly. And that's basically all I want to talk about for today. Thank you for listening. Leave me your comments if you have anything to add, or if I might have made a mistake at some point. Check out other videos of my channel if you like to, or subscribe or like, or you know all that stuff. I don't need to tell you every time. And I hate it when everyone does, and I still will probably end up doing it. Whatever, thank you for listening to me talk about the PS4 Pro. I had fun with the console. I, for myself, will not upgrade my model just yet. I don't own a 4K TV, and quite frankly, I didn't see a big difference between the image, at least not in the games I've tried. Uncharted 4 looked brilliant as it is on the normal console, so did The Last of Us remastered, and I've yet to see a game that really got a good upgrade. Interesting would be games that natively run in 900p on the PS4 Pro, like for example The Witcher or Star Wars Battlefront. But so far Battlefront has no update and Witcher doesn't seem to get one, from what I've heard so far. We'll have an interesting times. We'll see what comes out. We'll see how that changes. We also see what PS Pro can do with PSVR, which I've also tried and was very impressed on the normal console. But higher resolutions on that would also be very impressive and very much needed actually, since the headset's resolution is not as good as the ones on the PC. But I'm getting off topic here. Thank you for listening. See you on the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.